What would you think if I told you that the extinction story of the dinosaurs, the one we have been told since we were children, could it not be the whole truth? We all know the official version. A colossal meteorite, the size of a mountain, impacts the Earth and leaves an apocalypse of fire and darkness. End of story for the giants who dominated our planet. But what if that's just a piece of the puzzle? And if the true end of dinosaurs did not come only from heaven, but also from the waters? Get ready, because today, let's challenge what you thought you knew about the end of an era. Approximately 66 million years ago, life on Earth was a prehistoric paradise. Dinosaurs, in all their majesty, reigned over the earth, the sea, and the air. But this world was about to change forever. Conventional science presents us with a clear culprit: the impact of Chicxulub, an asteroid about 10 to 15 kilometers in diameter, crashed into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. In Mexico, the energy released was equivalent to billions of atomic bombs. The impact caused tsunamis, that continents, and a cloud of dust and sulfur that blocked sunlight for months, maybe years. The plants died, and with them, the herb without food. Large carnivores also succumbed. It is a solid theory, supported by considerable scientific evidence. A massive impact, a layer of iridium, a rare element on Earth but common in asteroids, found all over the world in geological strata of the same period, and glass, small drops of molten rock expelled by the impact. The story seems to fit perfectly. A catastrophic event, a mass extinction. But what if this explanation, although correct in part, omit an even more devastating factor? Now let's open our minds to a different possibility. One found on the pages of one of the oldest and most widely read books in history, the Bible. The account of the universal flood described in the book of speaks of a catastrophic flood that covered the entire planet. For a long time, this story was considered by many to be as a simple mythological story. However, several investigations and a deeper look at the geological and paleontological evidence have led some scientists and theologians to propose a radical idea. What if the universal flood was the true extinction event? Who killed the dinosaurs? Let's think about this. The Bible describes the sources of the great abyss breaking down and the waterfalls of the heavens opening. This suggests not only heavy rain, but massive tectonic and volcanic activity, releasing enormous amounts of water from within the Earth. Interestingly, the asteroid theory also contemplates massive volcanic activity as one of the consequences of the impact. Could both events be connected? Could the impact of Chicxulub to have been the trigger that triggered a global water cataclysm? The evidence presented by some to support this theory is dynamic. The fossil record, for example, around the world, we found billions of dinosaur fossils and other creatures buried in layers of sedimentary rocks formed by water. Many of these fossils are found in contorted positions, as if they had been suddenly buried by a large amount of mud and water. We found fossils of sea creatures at the top of the highest mountains. As the conventional explanation speaks of tectonic uplifts over millions of years. But the proponents of the flood theory argue that a global flood that covered the entire Earth explains this phenomenon more directly and simply. In addition, there are legends of a great flood in almost all the ancient cultures of the world, from the Sumerians to the Mayans and Australian Aborigines. Could these collective memories of a real event be that marked humanity in its beginnings? So, how does it all fit in? The proposal is as follows. The asteroid impact in Chicxulub was a real and devastating event. But he was not the only one to blame. The impact may have fractured the Earth's crust, triggering unprecedented volcanic and tectonic activity that released unbalanced amounts of water, causing a global flood. This combined scenario would explain the iridium layer, megatsunamis, the mysterious disappearance, and crucially the massive sedimentation and fossilization that we see around the world. Dinosaurs not only starved to death in the snow, but were away and buried by catastrophic waters. Of course, this theory is not free of criticism from the majority scientific community. Important questions arise. Where did so much water come from, and where did it go? How did they survive? Freshwater species in a global saltwater flood. Why? Fossils appear in specific order in the layers, geological and not all mixed. How would one expect total chaos? Defenders of the flood theory propose answers to these questions. They suggest that the water came from rough subway oceans, an idea that, although not proven, has won some traction, with reflections of large amounts of water in the Earth's mantle. Noah's Ark, in this context, is presented as the means of preservation for earthly life that God chose to save. Regarding the order of the fossils, argue that could be explained by liquefaction of the ground, and the classification hydrodynamics, where organisms more dense and less mobile would first settle in the lower layers. We cannot state with 100% certainty which theory is the absolute truth. Science is a process of constant where and what today is an accepted fact. Tomorrow can be one more piece of a much bigger puzzle. The theory of the asteroid has solid evidence and is the most widely accepted explanation. However, the idea of a catastrophic flood, either caused by the asteroid or as a separate event, offers an intriguing perspective that looks like respond to some of the questions that impact theory alone, leaves no answer. Evidence of a massive and sudden flooding in the fossil record is undeniable. For many, the presence of marine fossils on the world's highest peaks remains a painful failure. And the ancient stories of a global flood that resonate in cultures around the world make us wonder if they are nothing more than an echo of a forgotten truth. In the end, the extinction of the dinosaurs might not be a story with a single villain. Maybe it was a perfect storm, a blow from heaven followed by a fury from the depths of the earth, a catastrophe of proportions that cleaned up the planet and set the stage for the emergence of a new way of life. The next time you look at a dinosaur fossil, recalls that its history could be much more complex and complex and complex than you ever imagined. And the truth, like water, always finds its way.